The Antwerp Diamond Center was one of the most secure buildings in the world. With hundreds of millions of dollars worth of diamonds stored in its subterranean vault, it had to be. Located in the heart of Belgium's ultra-secure Antwerp Diamond District, it benefited from the 2 police stations, armed patrols, extensive video surveillance, and vehicle barriers securing an area where 80% of the world's diamonds traded hands. But on February 15, 2003, a band of skilled Italian thieves, fronted by the charming Leonardo Notarbartolo, who spent over 2 years scanning and observing the building, subverted every one of the Diamond Center's defenses and made off with a record amount of loot. Experts estimate they got away with nearly $500 million in diamonds, jewelry, cash, and other valuables. No one was hurt or even threatened during what was quickly labeled as the largest diamond heist in history. Leonardo Notarbartolo, a professional thief who was skilled in social manipulation and the head of the coup. Speedy, described as an anxious and paranoid man, he was a longtime friend of Notarbartolo and was the one responsible for scattering the rubbish in the woods. The Monster, described as a tall, muscular man, he was apparently an expert lockpicker, electrician, mechanic, and driver. The Genius, a specialist in alarm systems. He was an electronics expert known to be linked to series of robberies. The King of Keys, an older man described as one of the best key forgers in the world. The group conducted detailed surveillance of the Diamond Center, using camera pens to take covered pictures of the center and the vault. Notarbartolo's frequent visits under the guise of being a diamond merchant caused security to become accustomed to his presence. A small camera was hidden above the vault door by the group, being difficult to see when the ceiling lights were on. It would observe guards opening the door and record the combination they used. It would then broadcast its data to a sensor, which the group had hidden inside an ordinary-looking fire extinguisher in a nearby storage room. The day before the robbery, Notarbartolo visited the vault, posing as a routine visit. While inside, he quickly sprayed women's hairspray on the thermal motion sensors, as the oil from the product was transparent but would temporarily insulate the sensor from the thermal fluctuations in the room, and the sensor would only be triggered if it detected both heat and motion. This would last many hours, but not permanently, and the group used it as a temporary measure until they could properly disable the sensor system. While the security camera recorded his actions, the guard was not accustomed to his visit and did not pay attention. To avoid the large number of security cameras in the area around the bank, the King of Keys picked the lock of an abandoned office building that adjoined the Diamond Center, as it shared a private garden with it that wasn't under video surveillance. The garden allowed access to a small balcony on the center, which the group accessed with a ladder. An infrared sensor monitored the terrace, but the genius used a large homemade polyester shield to hide his thermal signature as he approached the sensor and placed his shield in front of it, preventing it from detecting the group. He then disabled an alarm on the balcony's windows. The King of Keys had used video footage to successfully make a duplicate of the nearly impossible to duplicate foot-long vault key. During the robbery, he knew that guards often visited the utility room just before opening the door and decided to investigate. Inside the unlocked room, he found the vault key. He decided to steal the original key, as it would ensure the vault's manufacturers did not realize the key could be duplicated. The group turned off the antchamber lights before opening the vault door to avoid tripping light sensors in the vault. After the King of Keys picked the lock to the internal gate, the monster, working in darkness, moved to the middle of the room, having practiced a number of steps in the replica. He then reached up to the ceiling and pushed back a panel, locating the security system's inbound and outbound wires. An electric pulse shot along these wires, and if any sensor was tripped or broken, the circuit would break and trigger the alarm. To overcome this, the monster carefully stripped the wire's plastic coating and attached a piece of new wire to the exposed copper wiring, shunting the circuit and ensuring that it was irrelevant if the sensors were tripped. The gang then used a drill to break the locks on each of the security boxes. The contents were then emptied into duffel bags. At 5:30 a.m., they finished and left, returning to the office building. They then put the bags in Notarbartolo's car, which then drove to the apartment while the man headed there on foot. The group was caught after Notarbartolo and Speedy went to dispose of the evidence of their plans, planning to burn it in France. Speedy was overcome with panic at the prospect of transporting such incriminating evidence and insisted they dispose of it in a nearby forest. However, Speedy suffered a panic attack and disposed of the evidence poorly, hurling it into the bushes and mud rather than burning it. Notarbartolo was busy burning his own evidence, and when he discovered what Speedy had done, he decided it would take too long to gather everything up and they needed to leave, confident that nobody would find their rubbish. A local hunter owned the land and called the police when he found the rubbish the next day. When he mentioned that some of the rubbish consisted of envelopes from the Antwerp Diamond Center, the police immediately investigated. The evidence from the rubbish was enough to allow the police to gain a lead, and they were eventually able to identify Notarbartolo from security footage from a nearby grocery store where he had purchased a sandwich. Notarbartolo was found guilty of orchestrating the heist. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison by the Court of Appeal of Antwerp in 2005. Even though the gang had executed the biggest heist in all history, they still made a mandatory mistake leading to the arrest of Notarbartolo.